everyone, and welcome back to Knit Cat Paddywhack. Today I want to share with you the Knit Front Slip Back, or KFSB. It's an alternative to the KFB or Knit Front and Back. These are called increase stitches and they both add an extra stitch to your knitting. KFB is a very common form of increase. I'd say maybe even the most common, although there certainly are other common ones like yarn over and make one. The stitch I want to show you today, KFSB, is very similar to KFB, although it looks slightly different and I think is often overlooked. I first learned about it in a post on the Yarn Sub website a couple of years ago, and I'll be sure to link that article below. And by the way, Yarn Sub is a really useful website if you are trying to find a substitute yarn for a pattern. First, let me start by showing you how to do the KFSB, and then I'll show you the more common stitch, KFB, so we can compare. To do the KFSB, you knit your stitch as normal, but before you take it off the left hand needle, you slip the back of the stitch onto your right needle, which adds an extra stitch, and then drop both stitches off the left needle. It makes quite a neat, inconspicuous increase. When you have a line of them stacked on top of each other on alternate rows, you can see that it is a neat line, slightly raised but unobtrusive. I think it'd make a very good dart when shaping a garment. I have found one drawback to the KFSB, and that is if you are stacking them but on consecutive rows rather than alternate rows like these are. This would come up very rarely and almost always in circular knitting. I discovered this accidentally when I was doing a pattern in the round which had increases on consecutive rows. What I found was that because I was increasing each time onto the same stitch, the slip stitch was the same stitch each time, meaning it was going every row without being knit, which stretches it tight. Imagine a piece of knitting where you're up to row 20, but just one stitch is still at row 1. This bunched up the fabric and made it both impossible to work, and it made the piece the completely wrong shape. Like I say, it is pretty rare that you will stack increases on consecutive rows, because usually you have at least one row of straight knitting in between. But if you ever find a pattern with stacked increases on consecutive rows, you can't use KFSB, and KFB is a better choice. Now, just to show you how the KFSB looks different to the KFB, let's do some KFBs and compare them. With the KFB, you knit your stitch, then before dropping it off the left needle, you knit a full stitch into the back of the stitch, then take it off the needle. This is different to the KFSB because you're actually knitting into the back, not just slipping it. You can see how they look different. This side is KFBs and this side is KFSBs. On the KFB side, each increase leaves a little bar on the right side of the work where you've knitted into the back, compared to the KFSB, which just adds a stitch that looks the same as the surrounding stitches. The KFB is a bit flatter, but also looks different to the surrounding fabric, where the KFSB is more raised but looks the same. You can decide for yourself which increase is best for your project, but I felt the KFSB deserved a bit more airtime than it has had because it's a great, neat little increase stitch, and I think it could be used a lot more often. What's your favourite increase? Let me know in the comments below. Like this video and subscribe to my channel if you want to learn more knitting tips and get easy knitting tutorials. Thanks for watching!